Hey everyone, welcome back. Lucid, I'm joined once again by Saq and I.
Hello, everybody.
Saq and I is my medical partner in crime for this.
That's right.
We're going to hack off a few limbs, maybe salvage a few brains.
That's right. Phlebotomize a few uh, citizens in our
Right.
glorious land, the sanatorium.
Yep.
And in this episode, we are going to go over our build, our bless, and I think maybe we should also touch on some of the other nations because that sort of informed our choice here in terms of our build.
Yeah. Let's describe. Um, yeah, I think we can describe the parts that like why we wanted each of the parts of our build kind of broadly
Yeah,
for this. Just like there are elves in the game that have high defense, and there's some repel builds,
yeah,
so we
yeah.
want this. Um, and then after that, we can go and do a deep dive on what they are, and that way we're not flipping back and forth.
Sure, sure.
So what chassis did we start
So
with?
we ended up, even though we picked the Bahamut as an option, but we ended up going with the Glyph because it's actually cheaper. Like it's 90 points. It's extra cheap for EA Hinnom.
Yeah,
The main reason, obviously, is again from the first episode. You guys know we're going for a big Dom play, and this starts with Dom 4, so we're going all the way up to Dom 9.
right.
Now, pro tip: when
And
you're yeah, I was gonna
oh, go
say
ahead.
what's important in any game of Dominions is you got to figure out what scales you need to get the amount of sacreds you want in your capital once you've cleared your cap circle. So um, you can just do that in a test game, right? Open up a test game with whatever map you're going to play on, and clear your cap circle, and then figure out how many recruitment points that gives you, how many resources that gives you, and then based on your candles, that's like theoretically the maximum amount of sacreds. But then,
Mhm.
do you need to take order? Do you need to take productivity? Right? What do you need? So
Right.
we have figured out that we can go 9 candles, which means 8 sacreds, because our mage is going to take one of the candles.
Yeah, we'll be getting one of these every turn at the
So
start. So
yeah, so we figured out that 9 candles and 1 turmoil gives us
right,
just enough recruitment points to get 8 garms per turn.
right.
If we went to 2 turmoil, then we wouldn't have enough recruitment points.
Right. And it would be tempting to be like, oh, well, we don't need that many garms. Let's go 8 Dominion, and then we
Yeah,
can go 2 Turmoil, and then great.
I mean that's
But
we could, but then that's
we
one
could.
fewer
That's one
dudes.
fewer garms.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So
And
yeah,
when you start stacking up fewer garms is going to mean more losses in expansion and fewer garms that you made during the expansion period total. Like how many garms you're going to have at turn 12 will be a good bit lower with 8 compared to 9.
yeah, yeah. So we will 9 Dominion, 1 turmoil. We can trash productivity because Garms take 9 resources per turn.
Yep.
We get heat 3 because we can get one more heat. We go growth 3 because growth. In the end, we had to get a few more points for our bless, so we did go misfortune 2, and we did take magic 2 for a couple of reasons, but mainly because we're relying on our Raktapada for research, so magic scales is really important. Also, that gives penetration 1 in our Dominion,
Yeah.
which is synergistic with our mass enslave shenanigans that will ensue.
Yep.
Also, Magic 2 reduces fatigue cost, and for like early war blood magic, if we need to like get
Yeah.
into a communion or summon imps, like that's important because it means your guys don't pass out after turn 1.
Yeah, for that, really only having magic 1 is the critical thing because that way you won't pass out from being a communion master you
Yeah,
and then have to wait 2 turns. You'll be able to immediately go and do reinvigoration the next round if you just take magic 1. Um,
but Magic 2 gives
yeah,
the
right.
penetration, which is really cool. And of course, we're going in prison. Well, I say of course, but not necessarily of course, but we did go in prison because we don't have
Yeah.
any all our
I will say,
blesses
Zach,
spent.
as we're sitting here looking at it, it would be super nice to only go 1 misfortune just because it would double our chances of getting heroes.
Well,
But
we Well, we can
We'll
play with
we'll
it
play
right
through
now.
it. Yeah, we're gonna play with it
So
right now. So
here's the current version of our build. So we have Fire 5.
oh, okay,
Yeah,
sorry,
sorry, yeah,
that's
sorry,
my
sorry, yeah,
cue.
that's
That's
right.
my cue.
Yes,
Fire five.
so we have Fire
Well, let's say
5.
what is it we want our guys to do first before we
Yeah,
get into
yeah.
the
Okay, so
specifics.
our first, so we went for a larger. Um,
Right.
so larger is really cool because it gives you. So let's like larger gives you a lot of things. It gives you map move, which is not to be underestimated. Gives
Yeah.
you more hit points, which is even more important. Like is more worthwhile on bigger units. Even more strength, and the +1 size. So the Garms just hit for like a ridiculous amount now. But that's key because they're going to fight ridiculous things, right? In a
Yeah.
normal game, if you're fighting like whatever human infantry, larger, it doesn't matter if you kill them for 30 or 40 damage, but it's going to matter in this game.
Yeah.
The +1 size is cool for, I think milk carts are size 5, right?
Yep.
So that's going to make them size 6. So that makes them a lot less vulnerable to air elementals, amongst other things.
Yeah. Which is one of the better ways to kill Melkrits, by the way, is like summon 3 air elementals or something that will
Yeah,
mess
exactly.
them up.
Now, Garms are size 4.
Right.
So making, if they weren't larger, then you could filter skeletons through them. Now they'll be size 5. But imps can still fit in there, and we'll probably have
Yep.
imps, so that's okay. If we end up using Seir, they go from size 3 to size 4. Now they're good when they're size 3, you get 2 per square, but size 4 is not bad, you can still get skeletons through. But
Right.
honestly, the map move, the increased hit points is the increased strength is just a great larger, is just a great bless.
Yeah.
Also, larger increases the hit points of our nurses and Raktapatas and of the communicants. So
Right.
that means the communions are better. They regen. They have like 13 hit points, so they
Yep.
regen more. You can kind of do mini baby turbo communions with Raktapada
Yep.
better with this. So yeah, those are all the reasons
Yeah.
to go larger.
Yeah. Absolutely. So.
And larger is just so good because it's not incarnate, right? So
Yep.
it's really nice bless to get. Okay, then we needed
And
magic
we don't
weapons.
even technically need to bless our guys to have larger in
True, true,
effect
true,
too, which is
true.
kind of nice.
Then
Um,
magic weapons, right, is sort of an obvious
yeah.
thing that you need. So we definitely pick up magic weapons because
Right. If we're gonna use Sayer, it's gonna be real nice. We may not. There's an argument for not getting magic weapons, and the argument is we're gonna be switching over to not really relying on these guys for that much. Our sacreds, like especially if we're doing more the Shaitan thing, and then the Garms are gonna be more like a sideshow. The thing is the job of the Garms is to kill really hard to kill stuff, and that may include at times
body
like super
ethereal,
combatants
yeah.
with ethereal on them. So
And
I think it's still pretty good.
I think like that first war against the guy who went Alt 7 and has air magic and is going to do Fog Warriors. By that
Yeah,
time, we're still going to be relying a lot on the Garms. Like we're going to have a big ball of
yeah,
Garms, and we want them to
yeah,
do things.
yeah,
Okay, now the glyph has fire, so we're going to take fire. We're going to give ourselves some attack skill at the minimum. And this means that our Garms, who have a base attack of 13, they have Berserker 2, so that's going
and
to
they have a
get.
length 3 weapon because it's a length 2 battle axe, but they're big.
Yeah.
And they're big by the way without larger, so it's going to be length. All Garms are effectively going to have length 3
Yeah.
weapons, whether you take larger or not.
But so in terms of their attack skill, they're 13. They get 2 from the Berserk.
Yeah,
Then this Bless is going to give them 2 more. So that already
right.
gets us to 17 attack.
Yeah,
And then we take Blood Surge, because if you don't take Blood Surge, then you're wrong. And so
yeah, it's really good on the Garms too.
I mean, yeah,
'Cause,
there are very
yeah,
few
it's
units that
going to
suck
give
you on, but
them.
yeah, it's so good.
Yeah,
Um,
you know,
it gives Reinvig, which is not to be underestimated, but it does give 3
right.
attack, more strength, which puts him at a total of 20 attack. Now you might be thinking that's overkill, but there's literally at least 2 nations we're playing against whose whole thing is elves.
Yeah,
So 20 attack is actually just going to be like 50-50 chance to hit
Right.
against two nations. Um, yeah. Now, what else do
So if
we?
you can't tell, we're aiming for everything here is oriented at killing, with
Yes.
the slight exception that larger also gives us 30% more hit points.
Yes. And that's, again, Garms are killy sacreds, right? That's their
Yeah.
job. Now, okay, what else do we flesh out? We decided that it would be worth getting air to get shock resistance. Um, the well, for a few things, we just stacked the shock resistance. Garms have shock vulnerability, so now they're at 10 shock resistance because we got 15 total, but they had 5 vulnerability. This is just good in general because there's a lot of air magic that we're facing, and it allows us to do like Wrathful Skies and things like that
Right.
pretty safely. Also, it's just good to have a high air path. We have air magic on the Royal Malquis, but it's only air 2, and it's really hard to boost air. So, with the God having air 4, I mean, you could craft boosters, but also it's just going to be high
Yeah.
enough with, like, maybe Rings of Wizardry or something to cast, like, some globals and things like that.
Yeah, I think this is one of the things we were talking about before we started recording too.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is potentially one of the big. There's a lot I don't like about taking air. Like I feel like
Mm-hmm.
we're not relying on our sacreds. We're gonna have by the time Wrathful Skies comes out, we're gonna have our own kind of cheese we can do where we
Mm-hmm.
do bone grinding 20 times and they're dead.
Yeah.
Um, like I feel like there's a lot of things that we don't need this. However, and I think this is the compelling reason why it's really good, is we can do this is the only way we're reasonably going to be able to cast Gale Gate and Dark Skies,
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise,
which
it's
is
too, yeah.
is huge for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
That, in my opinion, with having Shaitan and having this Dom push, is going to make it just a nightmare once we go into Juggernaut mode.
Yeah. No, it's really strong. And honestly, and there are other things too, like we have 15 shock resistance built into the milk carts. Like you maybe don't even
Yeah,
need to give them shock resistance gear. Like there's
yeah,
um,
yeah.
there's like things like that that are like unintended benefits. Um, okay, so yeah, then we decided to add death to this build,
And
and
we were thinking about not doing it. We were thinking about maybe we do Nature 4 and we take poison resistance.
or sight. So there's a few things here, right? We kind of
Yeah.
wanted maybe dark vision somewhere because we can do darkness very easily. We have skeletons all over the place, so it'd be a shame if our sacreds just got bad because of that.
Now that said,
Mm-hmm.
there's an anti-synergy with Dark Vision here too. And the anti-synergy is our Sair have built-in Dark Vision,
That's
and our
true.
skeletons have Dark Vision, and our Garms are mostly to get us through the early game. So by the time Darkness comes out, it's a
Yeah,
nice to have.
yeah, yeah,
It's but the Melquarts, will be really nice in
yeah.
Darkness with 30 stats, because we can
Exactly.
do crazy stat boost with the Melquarts and then have them running around in armies super combatanting. But
Mm-hmm.
in some ways, this is totally a build where we don't need Spirit Sight.
Yeah. Now, the reason why taking death is also there are a couple of things we get with death. One thing which I kind of decided I just wanted for this game was undead command.
Yeah.
And that's because, I mean, technically we don't need it, but oh my god, it would be try hard if we didn't take it. Because we have Buddha, but they're slow to recruit. We're not going to get them until, except for our one guy we took in our starting army.
Yeah.
We're not going to recruit any Buddha for like 15 turns, right? We're
Oh,
gonna,
for a while. Yeah.
yeah, well, maybe less than that. We're gonna have a bunch of Raktapada, and they can lead 10
Yeah, we're going to
undead.
be Raktapada incorporated
Mm-hmm.
for a long time. You're right. It probably will be 15 turns at least till we have our first Buddha
Yeah.
made.
And honestly, even later on in the game, when we have Raktapada everywhere just reanimating stuff, the logistics of moving the hundreds, if not thousands of undead around our empire are going to be so much more simplified, especially in the first 2 years when we haven't really had the time to summon like king, whatever they're called, the undead leaders, right?
Yeah.
To be able to move 40 or 50 skeletons with one Raktapada, of which we're going to have a ton of, is going to be so, it's going to make life so much better for us. So
Yeah.
I decided I just wanted to not suffer through the micro, and I wanted the undead command. The other key thing is we can twice born
Yeah.
the glyph now. Now we could have empowered in death, but this saves
Which is
gems.
yeah. And getting the slots can be huge because
Absolutely.
especially if we're going to be doing air boosters and stuff, we don't have a head spot on this. So getting a head spot to put the air hat on, and then,
Yeah.
yeah. And then also this is going to be able to do Staff of Elemental Mastery, which we can't hold. So,
Yeah.
We can potentially get this guy with the Ring of Wizardry, with the Bag of Air, with an air hat, and with a Staff of Elemental Mastery. I think that gets us all the way up to Air 8, which is kind of intense.
Yeah, which is crazy. Now that
And a Robe of the Magi, which we're also going to be able to forge.
that's Air 9.
Air 9.
Yeah. Yikes. Now with these scales, we can get one more magic path, and we weren't sure we could go Nature 4 to pick up poison resistance, or Astral. Excuse me.
Or Astral to get
magic resistance.
Yeah.
Our current thinking, I mean, their advantages. Astral 6 makes it even easier to get into Wish, but Astral 5 is enough.
Yeah.
Magic resistance is nice. I think we decided that we were going to go with the poison resistance. Just because we don't have any nature really except the god, so we're going to be relying on finding like an indie mage and putting a crystal hat on them to give us poison resistance. So kind of having
what sucks is I was hoping we could get a scale if we didn't take one, and then but we don't have quite enough.
It doesn't. Now you can see,
because I would really like to go to 1 here.
Now, if you go to Dominion 8 and Turmoil 2, you can see how, and just so people see how finicky these things can be,
we can do it. Yeah,
right. So
that frees up a lot of points.
Yeah, but see, it's 79. It's just
it's not enough for 2.
Right, it's not enough for 2. So,
well, but if we ditch this, if we say we don't need the poison resistance, it's probably 3. Oh no, it's only 2.
Right, so it's like,
and then it's gonna, you
just can't. It's like, no,
you can't. No, this is illegal. You can't leave 30 left over.
How much is a Dominion? Nope. See, you still can't do it, right?
You can't do anything. This is literally, this is an illegal build.
Exactly. I know, right? So,
I don't think we need to be. I really wish we could go Misfortune 1 just to have double the chance of a hero. I wonder if there's
we could play around with it more. The game is about to start, but we can rejig it.
I don't think we can.
We can.
I think it's go time.
I think it's. I think we're just gonna have.
So we're settling on this.
Yeah.
With the poison resistance.
Yeah, that's a build. Well, that's a build we've currently submitted. So if we want to change our mind, we got we
better do it real quick.
Honestly, I really like this. I think the scales are quite reasonable. The bless is nice because it does a lot for like everything, right? It's good for our actual fighting sacreds. It's good for our super combatants. It's good for our communion stuff. It synergizes with a ton of the cheese that we're gonna do, right? Whether it's Wrathful Skies, Darkness, it's just strong. It's just and it gives us like a rainbow. But you guys might be looking at this build and say, wait, that's crazy. They went for a rainbow and it's 40 points per new path. But actually, if you try to do this build on a rainbow, it's more expensive because of the Dominion. I've tried.
This was like the one thing I didn't want to compromise on. I'm like, we're going very high Dominion.
For sure.
And that is because I want an absolute murderous amount of Garm herdings early because we are our build, and it's kind of funny because at the beginning of this, Sai was looking at all the drafts, and he was like, "You guys have the greediest build." I don't. It's definitely. Well, he didn't say that. He did say greedy, but he also said by far and away the best scaling.
I think,
which is definitely true.
So I think it's greedy in the sense that our build of all the other nations has the most greedy stuff, but it doesn't mean it's exclusively greedy because honestly, I think with our Garms and the reanimated big skeletons, we're going to be really hard to fight early on.
And power of the sepulcher or whatever. Power of the reborn king.
Yeah.
Those guys are going to have, those big skeletons are going to do 26 damage and they're going to have 17 attack.
It's like a sacred.
I mean, what the fuck? And we're going to get, every turn, we have the ability to get 3 more of them. And then once we hit construction 4, then each of these guys, instead of making 3 a turn, are going to be making...
more.
Wait, how much more does it give you? 2?
2? I forget.
I think it's 5 a turn. So I mean, it's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, I think for sure people are going to attack us, and I think they're going to be very disappointed. Yeah, they're going to regret their decisions. Yeah, so that's our build. We tested expansion with this. The Garms expand very well. In my test so far, you kind of need 8 to 9 Garms for most indie provinces to not take a lot of attrition. Also, we'll be
backed up by skeletons.
Yeah, you usually add like a bit of chaff skeletons because that helps a lot with scripting. So this expands very well with Raktapada leading the expansion groups, or nurses leading the chirurgeons.
One thing too I expect just from looking at this is it's going to be a very weird economic situation because as we expand and get more provinces, we're going to be able to get more and more Garms every turn. Right? But we're not going to be spending much. We're only going to be buying these nurses. So until we get a certain threshold, all of our money is just going to be going into more Garms. At some point, we're going to have expanded well enough where we've passed that threshold. And then we're going to be saving up for infrastructure.
Yeah. We're going to have an important... And in my testing, this is around turn 7 or turn 8 where you start to finally make more gold than you're spending only on Garms, right?
Right.
And so we're going to have to ask ourselves, what do we want to get first? Like, because it could be start your second fort, but maybe it's recruit a Melkart, right? Like...
I think we do a fort.
I mean, I think so, but if you're facing an early war, at some point in there... You're gonna need.
Yeah. Well, we'll have. Okay. Well, that's an interesting thing. No, but we'll have a prophet Raktapada who can jump into a communion.
He can commune. Yes, of course. Yeah. Yeah. So actually, that's
because Saq and I were on the same wavelength. We're like, we need to get power of the sepulcher on our dudes.
But that's right. We don't even need the Melkart because the prophet can do it. Yeah.
Right.
Well, problem solved. So forts.
Problem solved. Yeah.
But
But imagine. Let me finish this thought.
Go ahead.
We go from like all our money, and it's going to seem like, oh my God, we can't save any money because we keep pouring it into Garms. But as soon as we cross that threshold of, okay, we've tapped out Garm production, which by the way is a wonderful threshold to be at because we're going to be producing so much murder every single turn. It's going to be amazing. But once we have crossed it, it's going to be, everything's just getting saved and it's going into producing new infrastructure. And then it's like, okay, we have our second fort. What now? Well, for a while, we're going to be making more Raktapada. They're going to be our researchers in Magic 2. They're not horrible. And some of them are going to be reanimating. Some are going to be researching. Some are going to be blood hunting, maybe. But these don't cost much. They're 80 gold.
And,
right? And so
one communicant per turn, but there's nothing else to spend gold on.
Right. There's nothing to spend gold on. All we can make really is going to be Raktapada for a while. Yeah. And then it's going to be like, oh shit. Well, we basically, however much money we have left over above this Gam herding threshold is going to go into fort and fort and fort and fort. And we're going to be just having a ton of forts to make more Raktapada.
Yeah.
And then if we let this engine run long enough, we're going to be making a lot of Raktapada a turn. Some are going to be researching, some are going to be blood hunting, and some are going to be reanimating.
It's going to be I think a lot is going to be the theme of this playthrough, right? There's going to be just a
Right.
lot of everything.
We are going to need at some point to find a. We're going to need to make a master brain at some point. They're
Mhm.
very expensive. It's basically like a fort, but we're going to need one reasonably early just to site search, which was
Yeah,
one of the reasons we got them.
yeah, for sure.
Um, but there's actually just looking at it, there's not a ton they search that Buddha don't. It's only air and astral,
It's
but
Air
that's kind of
Astral.
important.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna want it.
So I think what we may do is we're not going to get any more Buddha to site search. I think our first Buddha goes and site searches and gets us a ton of earth, fire, and death. And then at some point we decide to make one or two brains to go out and do the rest of the site searching.
Hmm.
But
I mean, we could also roll the dice on Melkarts because they do air and astral also.
these ones are no
Oh, not
astral.
they don't
So,
do
yeah.
astral. Sorry. Oh, for some reason I thought they did astral.
The Hinnom ones do.
Ah, that's why.
The Baratos ones swap astral for air.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
it's the
So
other thing to
go
think
ahead.
about too is like early research targets. And we'll talk
Mm.
about more of this in the game, but I think it's worth talking a little bit here. Blood one, so we can do communions and do Power of the Sepulchre or whatever,
Hmm.
Power of the Reborn King, and imps.
And imps.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, those are going to be nice for fitting in there with our Garms, be Garm buddies.
Hmm.
Um, After that, it's probably Construction 4.
I think so.
And that's going to give us the Sanguine Dowsing Rods. And I think, let me go back. I think,
And hammers and the reanimate.
wait, no, this isn't it. Why can't I go to the right page? All right. Yeah, let's see what the reanimation item is. Do you remember what it's called?
No. It's an amulet.
Yeah, Amulet of the Dead. Yeah, it's Construction 4, and it gives us two extra dudes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that'll give us our two economy items. And it's also going to give us stuff we can put on the Melkort if we need a thug.
Yeah. It's going to give us a ton of things. Hammers, the boosters that we need.
Right.
Um, yeah, I think we do construction 4.
4.
And
And then we
then
run up a bit of alteration, probably, right? To get Melkort stuff? No?
I don't.
Or
Well,
we go enchantment for Buddhas.
yeah. I think we have to make a decision. I think
Yeah.
probably Conjuration 3, Enchantment 5. Um, I think I
Yeah.
don't know actually, because
It'll probably depend on who our neighbors are and what they're
yeah,
doing.
yeah, yeah. But honestly, it's not gonna at that point. It's not gonna take long to grab like Alteration 3 or whatever, right?
Yeah, we're gonna want all three pretty soon. We're gonna want enchant 5 for our Skelly spam Buddha, and for Strength of Giants and stuff is gonna be really good.
Yeah.
Like Strength of Giants for our Buddha really comes online with like what Zach was saying, which was Conjuration 3, Enchant 3, because that way all of our Buddha can do Strength of Giants with Summon Earth Power, not just the Earth randoms.
Yeah. And
Um,
what's really nice about our nation is once you have like Alteration a bit, Conjuration 3, and Enchantment 5, we're like pretty much set, right? We are
yeah,
not a nation that's like relying on mass protection, right? We like or Alt 7 basically. I mean, it'll be
yeah,
nice to get Fog Warriors, but that's not like a key milestone for us.
yeah.
We're kind of set with that amount of tech, which means at that point we can really look at okay, what's our first war going to be? What do we want for that? And if we don't, maybe we can go construction 6 first for lanterns. Maybe we go for a global. That's
Yeah, we can,
interesting. In
because we do have
enchantment.
cheap lanterns too. That would be a cool. I would
Yeah.
totally be game for doing that. And a lot
Yeah.
of that, we're having this Buddha go out site search early. He's part of our starting army,
Hmm.
and he's going to be site searching like a fiend. If he finds us a lot of fire sites, we're going to be like, oh, construction 6, right?
And
Finds us a
yeah,
lot of death sites, we're going to be like, ooh, amulets of the dead.
exactly. And
I
I
don't know
think
what we're going to do with a lot of earth gems. We might go Earthblood Deepwell or something.
yeah, well, we'll have a lot of flexibility there. And in any case, I think we're going to go via Construction 6 into our late game, which is going to be like Blood 6 for Shaitans and then Thaumaturgy 9, right?
Yeah, that was actually one thing I wanted to talk about a little bit, which was, you know, we are going to be primarily Raktapada. They're
Mm-hmm.
going to be our research mages. They're going to be doing so much for us.
Mm-hmm.
And there is, I mean, there's going to, if you think about it, if we want to leverage them in a fight, there's going to be so much that more they can do once we have blood research, like life for life communions, or,
Mm-hmm.
even tossing out blood rain is going to be phenomenal for our units because all of our stuff goes berserk or has
Or is
infinite
undead.
morale,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Um, or they can do leech and stuff reasonably early. Um, but there's a lot of good stuff that comes from going up blood. So it may be, depending on our fire income, we go to construction 6, and then after that, beeline it up blood.
I think so, yeah.
Al- It'd also be cool to get like all the way to blood 8, maybe even before we do some of the alteration stuff, because then we'll have rush of strength, which is going to make all of our skeletons now do 30 damage instead of 26.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be able to do life for life, so no more thugs ever. And then we'll be able to do um, 3 red seconds and just start putting up forts all over the place, so we get more Raktapada.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a lot of good options to choose from.
Yeah,
I think after construction 6 probably.
blood 6.
I think it's going to be blood 6, and then at
Yeah,
that point we can decide, do we
yeah.
scoot up more in blood or do we fill out the rest of the tree? Um, and yeah.
And our emergency button, I think, early is going to be imps.
Yes, that's why we have to get blood. We could even go blood 2, like to do like agony if it's depending
Yeah,
on who's attacking us, right? Like it might be irrelevant, but against some nations it's going to work.
yeah.
But yeah, we're going to need blood 1 early.
Little things we can do early that might help too are take our crappy skeletons, like the ones without any armor,
Mm-hmm.
especially the small ones without any armor, and we make those our patrollers.
Yep.
To get one one 6,000 population thing going pretty early with blood.
Well, keep in mind we have from our capital we have some blood income, which
Right.
is really nice. So we can use that for imps for expansion, but it also means that by year
Yeah.
1 we're going to be sitting on like 20, 30 blood slaves that we can
Right.
use in an emergency for our first war. Do you want to? Why don't we look at some of the opponents and their units?
Yeah.
And
Let's see
thinking
if I might actually have to do a new game real quick. Yeah, because I changed the mod file name.
maybe
Um.
it'll be better on the spreadsheet because we might like the nation
Yeah.
the spells
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
are
Okay.
relevant. Yeah.
So let's see. So here's Grippa's nation and Zan.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Zan will be putting this up on YouTube, I hope. So if I don't put it in the video description, ask me. I'll put a link to it. But they got the Nephil Scrati, which are the sacred holy Scrati. So these are like really good thugs and turbo communion dudes. They've got Hurin priests, which are really good mages, just great all around. Saq and I were thinking about getting these.
Yeah, because they're also a way to. We thought that you could use them to reanimate, but it turns out you have to be Nazca, right, for that to
Yeah.
work.
The
If you
reanimation thing's
mummify
tied to
them.
Nazca, not to the unit.
Yeah.
So like our Maliquis can't reanimate either, but that's not why we
Right,
got
right,
them.
right.
So,
Um,
but these guys can jump into communions with the Scrotty and do and do Skelly spam and stuff too. They're not all astral, but some of them are. I think. I think. Let me
yeah.
check real quick. Her and priest. Yeah, it's a 1 in 3 of them are astral.
Yeah, yeah. Now the Diabolus is a blood searcher, blood fire. It's I think not the best pick, but it is
It's
up there.
strange they wasted this spot on it. I don't think it's a weird pick. I think it's weird to draft early.
Yeah, and
Um,
the Tuatha warrior is also a surprising sacred.
But you can imagine some funny things, like you have 2 Nephil Scrotty. Well, no, let's say 4, because you probably want to get up an extra to have these guys as fire 3. No, you have 2, You have these guys do Phoenix Power, so now they're effectively Fire 3, and they can each summon, you know, a bajillion fire
I was gonna say
elementals. I don't know
infinite fire
how.
elementals. Yeah,
Yeah, and the Scrotty won't care, and then you have I mean, there's some funny stuff you can do with them,
for sure.
but it's a weird first pick, but it's a good unit. I like them.
Yeah. Um. Anyways, they've got
Clock Warrior. They're also good Blood Hunters. So
yeah,
that's the other
that's
thing.
fine. Um. Yeah, there's nothing. I mean, they got like a Dai Bakumono Longbow, which is actually just a good chaff unit. They went for Bind Jaguar Fiend, which is Ocelots.
Right, which
They
the
got
Diabolists will be able to
yeah,
do. So
exactly. They got the Rakshashi.
this was a weird pick to me. I know they wanted nature and some other stuff to add into the communions, and so Rakshasi are nature capable, Sabbath masters, and they can seduce. They're a little weird, and the Tuatha warriors aren't great in my opinion,
Yeah.
but
So, anyways, that's their build. We'll see if they can
I
make it
would
work.
rate this as stronger than vanilla, but I don't think this is
Yes.
like oppressive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's LA Ulm, so they'll get their vampires, and
right.
they start with a citadel and things like that.
Yep, and a resource bonus too.
Yeah, yeah.
This nation is scary.
Oh
Um,
baby.
So they've got Morvark Knights, which so it's Middle Age Agartha, so they get all the Middle Age Agartha summons. Interestingly, Morvark Knights, because they're amphibious, you can pick them as a land nation. And the funny thing about Morvarks is they're better on land than in water.
Yep.
So that's fun.
Yeah.
So they've got Morvark Knights. They've got their other unit is
Ulm Rangers.
Ancient Ones,
Oh, that too. Yeah.
which are recruit anywhere.
Yeah.
So these are the Agarthan sacreds with big long spears. And so a lot of times you do a repel build on Morvarks with like attack skill and larger. And then you have to imagine these guys with a repel build. It'll be scary.
Yeah, definitely Repel City. They and backed up with crossbows, which is always nice.
Yep.
And then Flagrant Tyrants, because why
Right.
not?
So this is chaff armies, right? So they can do capture slaves and they get the really good slave type. So really kind of cool. They've got chaff options, they've got crossbow options, they've got repel hard hitting dudes, and then they have earth readers, which are just a great buffing mage too. So this is a scary nation. I think this is one of the ones like I wouldn't be thrilled to start next to. I definitely wouldn't want to attack them.
For sure. 3 is us. So then 4.
Ooh, another scary one.
Yeah. So
This is probably, I think, the second strongest.
well, this is very similar to our build. I think we're doing
What we're doing better, but you can see the similarities, right? So they've got reanimation on Raphite giants, right?
Right.
They also went with a berserking, hard hitting sacred in the Chudskin Shifter.
Low resource cost.
Yeah. They've got excellent blood access with the Aits, which is a great, probably the best site searcher. Now, it's a little different. So they went with the Onaqui, which is kind of more summonable sacreds. Not summonable, but like a more access to sacreds.
Well, so they have the Dominion summon sacreds for the beast bats.
Right.
So if we look at it, they're also going to get access to Sayer. So they have blood summons, right? Sacred blood summons. They have the Chudskin Shifter, which is spamming out sacreds out of their capital. They have the Anonqui, which every Anonqui they build is going to give them, like, I think a Dominion 10, which again, look at the synergy, because low resource, get a ton of Chud Skin Shifters, right? They're going to be high Dom.
Well, they
So
took a Frostfather, so it'll cost them a lot to get high Dom, but we'll see.
Yeah. But I mean,
Yeah.
but at minimum, they got 7, I think.
We know they're going
right?
high Dom because they also took Boar of Carnute, so they're going Marverni Boars. Like, it's all Dominion
Right.
based.
So there's 2 Dominion-based summons. The Anonqui, which are going to make a shit ton of Beast Bats. Boar Carnutes, which is a Dom summon for the Boars. It's going to be scary.
And they took a Pan, which is a fantastic mage for buffing, right? Just Earth and Nature can kind of thug on its own. But just between the Pan, the Thaumaturg and the Anarchy. They've got great magic diversity,
Yep.
just great mages, great units, like a ton of sacred axes. I'll be really curious to see what bless they
They
go
will
with.
certainly have the most sacred in the game.
Yeah.
It's certainly going to be larger. We know that
Yeah.
because the Borakarnutes. I
And
wouldn't be
then,
surprised if they did like larger Blood Vengeance or something.
yeah.
That'd be scary
Well,
as hell.
so if they're going Frostfather, they're gonna have Frost and Air in there.
Oh yeah. Well, they may not pick this too. Like we didn't pick ours.
That's true.
So,
I mean, maybe they're just doing misdirection.
yeah.
No, you could do a ton of. You could do like very memey things with this too. I'm very.
I think these guys actually have a stronger mid-game timing than us because they're going to have a million sacreds.
Yes.
However, once we hit Thom 9, nobody can fight us really with a proper army.
Yeah, I think they have they're stronger in the mid game, but not versus us because I don't think it's like if we have similar like numbers of undead.
Yeah.
Like the boars are not gonna like our garms are just gonna be better than what they have, I think. But anyways, it's a great nation. I really like this. Plus
Yeah,
they have the
that's
Hobart
really strong.
crossbows. It's really nice. So well played to them.
Yeah. This is interesting.
Yeah. So EA Tianchi is notable because you do get the Tianchi, not MA, but EA and LA have the little sacred ghosts that you can summon in Conjuration. And they just also have a lot of national summon spells that give you sacreds. There's a few. There's like little flying dogs. There's like a fire demon.
Yeah.
There's a big.
They can turn a lot of gem types into sacreds.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what you get from that.
And you get ancestor spirits.
Yeah, those are the little ghosty
Yeah.
things. Yeah,
But
exactly.
that's like the battlefield somewhere you can flood it with sacreds. So.
Yeah, Conjuration 7, you get like a bajillion of them. So that's cool. And then they got Hellherdings, so Elf Sacreds,
Yeah, these are the elf cav.
and a Garthan light crossbow. So nice.
These are notable for having one of the best crossbows in the game and they're low resources. So that's kind of their stick. You can spam, they're highly massable and they have steel crossbows rather than the normal crossbows.
which do like one more damage, I think, right?
Yeah, which is significant.
Very nice,
So,
yeah. And then Marshmaster, which is just a great mage overall. Warrior Smith, giving them crafting in a lot of paths. Like it's not as like our Buddha, it only has one forge bonus, but it can do like all the elemental paths plus nature, I think. And then the Sahir and the Koya.
these are just really good mages. The Sahir gets pretty deep elemental path access to fire, air, and earth. And maybe it can random astral. And the Koya can actually turn into a Royal Maliqui. However, because they don't have Inca, which are usually what they kind of pair with when they turn into a Maliqui, their Royal Maliquis won't be as good as ours. They will still have the innate bonus, the innate 2, which is the most important part, but they won't have all the paths. They will only have the paths that the Koya had.
But this is actually really another nice lineup that has like fantastic magic diversity, right? I think they have everything covered at decent path. Like it's not just one in each path, right? Like they got like 2 and 3 everywhere. A great lineup. You know, you can take an Elf Bless for not too expensive, right? And yeah.
This, I think, has a bit of a higher skill floor than some of the other ones we've looked at so far. Like, this one doesn't have like a big, huge freaking stick that you just beat people with the same way the other nations do. Like, a lot of this is built around, not like they don't have free spawn options really, right? You have to spend gems to get sacreds. The hell hurting are great, but they're not like a huge hammer you bludgeon people with necessarily. The strength of this nation in many ways is it's got really good magic diversity on the mages and it's going to have really high quality elite armies, but it's not going to be bleeding them. So if you take a really bad battle and you have a bunch of stuff die, you're going to feel pretty bad about it.
This feels like a super overpowered vanilla nation.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not quite at the all-star level of power curve where there's going to be super broken. Like this is not
Yeah.
super broken shit.
Yeah,
This is
exactly.
just like a very well-made nation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Next, we have Maryland and
Oh
Vincenar.
boy. The Hell Elves.
Yeah,
The Helfs.
the Hells. We were somebody made a funny comment because after the first round, he was like, "This is actually just EA for Moria, right?" Because he went from
Yeah.
Lifeless, Numidian Sorceress.
You're like, wait a second.
Yeah, you realize you could pick anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have Van Heers, which are probably the best sacred in the game, I think.
Yeah. They certainly are in the running for it.
Numidian Sorceresses, which are also just fantastic mages, air death. With a
One thing
few
we're
other
going to
things.
note about this is so it's a great mage, but it's stealthy. Everything except the Master Smith, which they were the ones to finally catch it.
Yeah,
Everything except the Master Smith was stealthy
yeah.
in this lineup.
They have Dryads. They got Centaur Warriors. They have Summon Condor and Kinara.
Condor is stealthy. I think Canaris are. I'm not actually sure. Kinara are not stealthy, but they're. I'm not quite sure why they got them.
And they went with the gray one.
Right.
So we'll see what their build is. But this is like a I don't honestly
And
this
Condors
could,
are like broken siege chaff too. Like they're completely broken.
yeah. I think like this.
Oh,
Did you just?
the Kanara they got to lead the Condors around. I think they're flying long range leaders for the Condors. I think.
Could be. But he has like She Lords, so those can move
Yeah.
like 9 million provinces per turn, anyways.
Right. So it's going to be one of the best thug chassis in the game, comboed with 1 gym items.
Yeah.
Right. So that's going to be hilarious to deal with. And then Dryads potentially with 1 gym items too, which will be annoying. So it may be that the best way to do Dryads in this build isn't the normal swarm Dryads we're all used to. It's going to be like fully kitted,
Like kitted super combatant
super,
Dryads, yeah.
super thug Dryads.
Also, EA Femoria has like the Morgans, which is a really good spell.
Yep.
And the Morgan
So yeah,
Spear,
there's going to be,
I think,
yeah.
right? Also.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to be having Dance of the Morgan, so it's like the Howl, but with Sacreds with Fear. Then they're going to be doing Wailing Winds.
Yeah.
And their stuff all goes berserk. The Centaurs go berserk. The Van Heer goes berserk. And they're all stealthy. Oh, that's a beautiful...
I like it. I like it a lot.
What's cool is it's like, this is very different. This is more different than any of the other nations. And it's like super focused on doing one thing. I mean, not exactly one thing. It's very thematic. It's like, we're going to be the worst fucking elves you have ever dreamed about.
Yeah.
It's like nightmare fuel elves. So good job, Maryland and Venusaur.
Very nice.
This is a weird one.
Yeah. Well, look, it's got Anakites, so it can't be bad, right?
Yeah. So it's Marignon, which gets it gets some cool summons, but it also gets, most importantly, and I think the reason they picked it is it gets like 4 bonus bless points or something.
Yeah. So this is gonna be Anakites with and hang on buddies, right? Like it's like Anakites.
Well, they've got Recruit Anywhere Sacred Griffin Riders.
Yeah.
And Anakites. So they've got the building blocks of like pretty crazy sacred stuff.
Yeah.
Then they've got the Melkwort, which also is sacred and will do pretty good. And they've got the Bakamona Sorcerer, which is also sacred. And you can do these as like white mage thugs.
So I guess they research with Bakamona Sorcerers? Question mark?
Yeah, the problem with that is Bakamona Sorcerers they're slow to recruit.
Yeah.
The nice thing about that is they research for a shit ton. 21. So...
Yeah, but they're 390 per...
Yeah. So they're going to have pretty slow research. But you can take Drain on these guys and not really notice because their research base points is so high.
Yeah, fair enough.
And it's like how much research do you need? You're running around with piles of Seshai, Anakites, and Griffin Riders, right? So
Yeah.
they're going to be putting, I think, a lot more money into troops than
Mm-hmm.
mages compared to other nations. But that may give them some very good early power timings.
For
So
sure, for sure.
some of these are weird. Though. Gift of the First Soul is interesting. This gives you regen with blood, so the Melkorts can cast regen on themselves, which are a little interesting. I don't think I would value it as a second round pick, but Contact Void Spectre, these things are broken. He's only going to be able to cast this with his god, though, because none of these guys have astropaths. Reign of the Jaguars, only. This is one of the funny things. He picked a Blood Sacred spell, but the only way he's going to Blood Hunt is with his Melkorts. So
Yeah, which is not. I mean, they have blood hunting bonus, but they're not good like blood hunters just because they're too expensive and they eat the population too. It's yeah.
and they cause unrest, and you can only they're slow to recruit out of your capital, so you probably want them doing other things than blood hunting.
Yeah.
So there's problems with that, but I mean, the Melkorts can also. I mean, I don't love it, but it's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. This made me think though. We have one problem too, which is we've got 2-cap only mages, and I'm thinking like, what do we get more of in the late game? Because we're going to want more Melkorts to do more blood sacrificing, but in the late game, it's going to be the Malakwi which break everything. So
yeah.
I think we're going to have to destroy our cap and make a citadel there. That's like another reason to go Blood 8 kind of soon.
Yeah.
Get 50% more stuff.
For sure. For sure. I think honestly, there'd be a limit to the number of Malakwi that we can effectively use. Maybe
Yeah.
not. Okay. Next we have Dark Wolf.
This is cool. So this is one of the underwater teams.
Yes,
Middle Ages.
There are 2 underwater teams.
Right.
Middle Ages gives you a Citadel, which is nice. And they took the Meteorite Guards and the Levite Zealot, which is a recruit anywhere sacred from Gath on land. And then they also have the Arsertut, which is a great land unit from LA Atlantis.
Mm-hmm.
They have
This is a kind of weird choice for a sacred.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Well,
to
yes,
talk about this nation, I think we actually need to talk about GC's nation first.
Okay, sure. They're 2 underwater nations.
There's 2 underwater nations, and there's this one, and then there's the one that's going to kill them.
Yeah. So I okay, if this was the only okay, well now we switch. So the problem is that they don't have the Knight of the Deeps.
Yeah. So these guys have Knights of the Deep, and are going to murder everything underwater. And you need an answer to it. And the problem is, they don't have an answer. They just don't. They have Meteorite Guard, which are not an answer to Knight of the Deep, especially for your first war, because they're slow to mass. You just can't get a ton of Meteorite Guard early. And especially like a larger, a larger Knight of the Deep, they're going to do repel, and the Meteorite Guard don't have great defense, and they'll have a longer weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they'll get completely trashed. And the Zealot, their only other unit, no, they have the cap only guys too. The Astertuts, these are not gonna. They're gonna have the exact same problem. They're gonna get trashed by Knights of the Deep, I think. And then they have the Levite Zealot, which is a sacred unit you can get in forts. For them, it's going to only be coastal, and that's not going to help them in the war underwater. And then you look like, okay, well, would they win with slave mages? Probably not. And they're good mages underwater, but they're going to get killed before they get Conjuration 5, I think. And they've got Melia, which are not going to help. And then they've got Laestrygonian Tyrants, which I don't think they're going to get a chance for these guys to come online. They're going to get completely mowed down, which is going to be a problem, actually, for everybody else in the game, because it's going to be a 2-cap general confusion in Ballin.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, so this nation, the thing is, I think it's fine if it's alone, right? The problem
is... it's a great nation if it's the only underwater nation.
Yeah. Anyways, so let's look at the other underwater nation to see what we're
Yeah,
gonna deal with for the rest of the game, um, which
yeah.
is besides Night of the Deeps.
Which is fine because this we don't have to worry about. It can't come on land.
Exactly, not our problem. Yeah, he's got Fomorian Kings.
Which
The
are great super combatants.
Absolutely. Then the Erythian Ducados, which is it's like astral plus elemental paths, if I remember
And it
correctly.
can forge, if I recall.
Uh
So it
huh.
got a forge bonus. Pull it up real quick. Oh no, it's an
It's
adept
a
researcher.
researcher, yeah.
Did I get it? Yeah. Okay, I can't forge. Thinking of.
But just a great
Yeah,
mage.
super good mage.
The
Can do almost
Thurgus
everything.
one
Yeah.
is the forger.
Okay.
Um,
But yeah,
yeah,
super
just
good
a
mage.
great mage. Then they got some recruitable units: Erythian Hoplites, Deep Wind Spearmen, um, and they took Revive Lemur Consul as a spell.
Yeah.
So gonna have some more chaff there. And yeah, there's just a solid nation that's gonna win underwater, and then have Fomorian Kings and just great astral elemental magic.
Right. And
Um,
he picked the jellybeard as an item, which is kind of cool. It's an item that relay gets, but they have trouble forging.
mhm.
But it's link 3, so it's going to be good for repelling, and it does protection, like a basically like dancing shield. Um, and in addition, it has a paralyze and a poison attack too. So these guys will actually be very good anti super combatants with this item on. I think.
Mhm.
So that'll be maybe an issue for our Melkorts we'll have to deal with at some point. And then Strange Fire it does verse demons and undead. It's like 24 armor piercing fire damage.
Yeah, and all the Dukados can cast it. It's an astral
Yeah.
fire
Yeah.
spell.
So this will be, I'm imagining by turn 20 they have fully conquered their underwater partner, and then we're probably neighboring one of the lakes, and then they're probably going to be like, let's go kill Lucid and Saq, and we'll blast them with strange fires, and we're going to be very sad.
Yeah, well, we might.
Yeah.
But
Um
but we'll have like 100 Garms, and there's not a lot there that can deal with
yeah.
Garms, so we'll see. All right. So nation number 9, I think.
Okay, so this is middle-aged man, and the reason you pick middle-aged man is for the communions. They get nature communions, which are kind of
Yeah.
cool.
Which you
You
could
don't
have
have to worry
picked
about
that.
them burning out.
Yeah, you could have picked that as a national spell also if you
Right.
wanted to, but they went with the nation. They get 200 gold temples.
Yep.
The national spells.
The other thing, the way the communion thing will work with they get the orphan mystic, is you have to be a spell singer to use the man communions, in addition to having a nature
Yes.
path. And that was why they wanted to get the orphan mystic, because they felt like it's by far and away for them the best mage to communion up.
Mm-hmm.
And if they got it, they would be very sad. It would kind of ruin their whole thing. So this went together for them as a pair, even though I don't think this is a very good first draft. But for them, it was just,
That's the
they would be
thing.
extremely sad without it. And then they got Jaguar Warriors and Call Melkort. This is going to actually give them the same Melkort as ours. I don't think it's going to have our beautiful skin, because I separated out the units.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that'll be good. It's going to give them Holy Threes to bless their Jaguars. They get the Gath Cohen, which is a really good blood searcher, or blood hunter, or a pretty good blood hunter. And they get the Rotarius, which is going to make them very scary in their first war. And then they got the Lion Warriors. What do you think about the Lion Warriors as their sacred?
I think it's a. So Lion Warriors are great at killing other sacreds.
Mm-hmm.
They're not good. I mean, they're good. They're sacred units, but like they're not good at fighting chaff and like expanding.
Right.
But they're just
Like
very good.
20 hit point, 30 damage undead.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at fighting those. But they would be okay against our Garms.
No, yeah. I mean, the Line Warriors,
Yeah.
you get that because you want something to deal with other people's sacreds and super combatants, right? Or thugs
Right.
that
Yep.
happen to be sacred. So they're fulfilling a role.
Mm-hmm.
And but they're just not great for chaff and fighting expansion.
And then they got the Re, which is, I believe, a one of the elf fancy pants.
Yeah. Of course, searching for RI gives you.
And, I think we're gonna have an easier time looking at TNN. I can't remember if it's EA or MA TNN that gets them.
There you go.
Go.
So
these guys can jump in communions too, because this is the man theme, right? They can also, if he wants to, he can do. Let me pull up the Mystic. He can do linebacker communions with these guys. And what that would mean is these guys become communion slaves. These guys are the communion masters. They do Soul Vortex, Iron Skin, Phoenix Pyre, Quicken Self, Personal Luck, Personal Regen, all the buffs. And let's say there's 4 Re. Then the masters all run. Now, normally when you run, your slaves get knocked to like 200 fatigue and maybe even take a little bit of HP damage. But because it's a man communion, it doesn't work like that. When they run, I think they just wake up.
A man communion cannot go above 100 fatigue. It breaks the communion.
Oh, right. Or maybe they fatigue. I can't. Maybe if you run, it doesn't. I don't know. There's some way to do it.
Yeah. I haven't tested actually linebacker communion with man because that's a weird thing. But like, the thing about man communions is a normal communion, if you can go above 100 fatigue and then you can keep going to 200 and then you could just kill the unit. Man communion slave, just as soon as it passes out, it breaks the communion because you have to sing to be part of the communion.
Right.
So if you pass out, you just pass out and the communion is gone. So that's that can screw you over if you didn't plan for that, right? You gotta realize that. But of course, because they're spell singers, everything costs less fatigue. So we'll see how they end up using this. It'll be interesting.
So they may not do the linebacker thing. We're certainly not going to tell them about it, but it's a very powerful thing that they can do.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll see what they. They've got. I don't know if it's the most powerful nation, but they've got a few themes going on there, which are pretty.
Yeah, cool. No, it's definitely not a pushover. I mean, you got Retarius and Jaguar Warriors as a recruit anywhere, with Lion Warriors to deal with everything else. It's going to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then we have Middle-Aged Satis, which gets this is Foolish Pride and Wintermute. So what Middle-Aged Satis is great because they get an income bonus based on how much Dom score you have, and anybody that attacks them will get poisoned if they don't have Swamp Survival,
disease,
or Cold-Blooded. Diseased. So they have Knights of the Chalice.
So important,
which are recruit anywhere sacred.
If you pick MA Satis, then you have to make sure all your units are either sacred or Swamp Survival, whatever.
Or Cold-Blooded.
Yeah, Cold-Blooded. Sorry. So he just went with sacreds everywhere, which
except for Elite Warriors,
which are amazing units in their own right.
This is a scary ass lineup. Like Zayedans, which are like best in class sacred cav, flying cav. Then Knights of the Chalice. So recruit anywhere sacred cav. Just that alone, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Right? These got druids. These are the Marverni druids, so they get like a ton of different magic paths, which they can jump into a communion. They're good researchers. The Nagarishi is a cap only. A lot of versatility, foul vapors.
8 paths on it, right? It's like water 3, earth 3, astral 1, whatever.
And then the Haggadrot for Earth Death access, basically. Yeah. And then the Elite Warriors so that they can fill up their army of elites with some chaff that's extremely killy and hard to deal with.
Yeah.
I would rate this as... It doesn't have the best of the scaling potentials, but it's just going to be a nightmare to deal with. To fight.
That's a great way to put it. It doesn't have any like special scaling. It's just gonna scale by killing everybody and then becoming bigger and killing more people.
It does have Dance of the Morgans too, which means we're also looking at Dance of the Morgans, which is the Howl fear sacred summoning thing, in conjunction with Wailing Winds and stuff from the
Oh,
Hagatrots.
also, by the way, he's going to do Druid Communions with Iron Blizzard, which is going to
Oh,
be
yeah.
hilarious.
That's going to be funny.
That's going to be amazing.
Yeah, we actually will struggle against that some.
Well, we're going to have Enchantment 6, and we'll just do Arrowfin, and we'll be fine.
But Aerofins, well, I guess we can do it with our Melquarts. Yeah, because I was going to say, doing it with our Malakui, we have to worry about Magic Duel,
That's true.
which we won't talk about now, but we have some countermeasures for it, but they may not be sufficient.
Well, I mean, you put you cast it right away, and you put a Ring of Returning, and
Phoenix Pyre, you mean?
yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think you do Phoenix Pyre, Aerofend, or something, and then Ring of Return. Well, no. Yeah, I don't know how you do it. It's going to be tricky.
We'll figure it out.
Maybe, hopefully.
Maybe. Okay.
I hope I don't think anybody's mentioned Magic Duel in the game chat. If at some point somebody's going to say something, and we're going to be sad.
It's going to be another.
Don't tell anyone,
Don't
goddammit.
tell anyone, yeah.
All right,
okay.
and then this is a really interesting nation. So
Yeah.
this is like late age Joman. So they're gonna get a coastal start. So it's a late age Joman, but with amphibious shit.
Yeah.
So they get the Troll Guard, which is not really a recruitable, but it's one of the special exceptions to the normal rules. So that's a great unit. It's got 20% region underwater, great protection. They get the Ryujin, they can get into the underwater forts. Right, and they're going to have pretty reliable access to some underwater with Troll Guard.
Yep. Dione, which are just fantastic.
Yeah. Warrior Sorcerers, who are good thugs.
And they got the Armor of the Five Elements, a Chinchi craftable item, which is just very solid all around for the Dione and Ryujin. So this is kind of like a thug nation. But yeah, I honestly I like this nation. The problem is, I don't think they're gonna get to keep any of their underwater stuff with two.
Yeah, the
nations.
particular map we have, it's got basically one underwater nation which connects to another underwater nation, and beneath them and connected to the top because it's roll around is Joman.
Yeah.
So there's a decent chance that, and this will be an interesting X factor in this underwater war. Which side does Joman take in the
interesting.
underwater battle? Because he'll be able to choose sides.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Actually, honestly, the only way that the non-GC nation wins is if he allies with Joman and they both try to take on the Knights of the Deep.
But the thing is the Knights of the Deep will have trouble crossing over land into the Joman Lake.
Yeah.
But the other guys are all amphibious, and they would have tyrants running around. So who knows what they're going to do. But this is the last one.
Yeah. And good thing, too, because we've been going for over an hour.
Yep.
So that is it, guys. That is the roster of nations that you will see playing in this game. And how are you feeling about our chances here?
I think if we don't get absolutely crapped upon in the first 30 turns, we have a very good shot at winning.
Yeah.
If we start getting behind the 8-ball, there's some really strong nations in here that we might not be able to catch up to.
Yeah. I think we have by far the best late game.
Yeah.
We have,
with the tiny exception of Magic Duel, which we have to figure out solutions for.
Yeah, but Magic Duel, so the our Royal Malqui are like one of the things that makes us win the late game.
Yeah,
but like our Dom push is going to happen whether like Magic Duel isn't going to stop our Dom push, right?
Yeah, and the Shaitans, and then we can also do
the 9 million skeletons, right? So
yeah, and we also Crystal Matrices on Buddha with our communicants and stuff, they can do crazy turn
Yeah.
one shit like
So
undead mastery and steal all the enemies undead shit.
yeah, like so. I think what's so strong about our nation is that we're not just the strongest in the late game because of the one thing. We literally have four things that each independently are the strongest in the late game.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean we're completely weak in the early game. I think our Garms are gonna tide us over, but there's definitely going to be periods of vulnerability where when we get like 3v1 or something, it's going to be kind of rough.
I think our weakness, Sec, if I had to articulate what it is, aside from Magic Tool,
Mm-hmm.
is we are going to require a lot more infrastructure than everybody else. Because it was that thing I was talking about early with once we can pay for games, all our money is going to go into infrastructure and basically rock to pata.
Mm-hmm.
And there is going to be a period where we have Raktapata and we have Undead and we have Garms, but other people have research, and we just haven't gotten there yet. And it is possible that people have the right mix of research, like maybe they have 200 crossbows and flaming arrows and wind guide and or 300 crossbows, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then a good front line of sacreds, and we just can't because we don't have any tech really. We don't really have the tools to deal with that well. And then we'll be like pulling all our Raktapata and doing like 500 imps to try to like not lose to that.
Yeah.
You know, that I think is our weakest period. It's that period while we're trying to get. We're going to have hardly any upkeep because all our stuff is sacred and we can't produce normal units, and we're getting cheap ass mages. And we're trying to get all the infrastructure up we need to spend so that instead of all of our gold going into infrastructure, we start having more of our gold going into upkeep and to producing mages.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be our weak window.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be that sort of year 2 to year 3
Yeah.
kind of window. And I mean, we'll have
If
to
we
see.
if we come out of that, we can have lanterns and skull mentors and whatever our research can actually be booming at once we get going.
Yeah, for sure.
But it could be sketch getting there.
So we will.
What do you
find
think?
out. Yeah, I think I kind of agree with that. I think we do have tools. Like I think, like what you were mentioning, like a kind of a chaff army of crossbows with sacred. I think probably it's going to be imps, but also like a well-kitted Melkart. Like Construction 4 is certainly within reach, right? For us by then. So, I think we are going to have tools to deal with it.
Yeah, we could do like a Shield of Valor too.
Yeah,
which is,
exactly.
Yeah.
I think the thing I'm most worried about, like, I think people might think correctly that we're a big threat late game. And therefore they might think we need to attack them early.
Yeah.
But that is
even
incorrect.
if it's hard. If it's hard.
But like the problem is we're actually, I think, gonna do very well in an early war.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm worried about is 3 people decide to team up against us, but
At turn 20.
at turn
Not
20.
at turn. Yeah.
Well, no, I was like, or whatever, like sometime between turn 10 and 30, right? Like 3 people decide to.
Well, no,
attack
like
us.
I thought you were saying we'd be strong turn 10. Relatively.
We are, yes, but
Yeah.
the thing is, yes, we're going to be strong turn 10, and so therefore, if everybody's acting in their own self-interest, they shouldn't attack us, right? But if 3 people attack us on turn 10, like that's still bad for us. Just because we're strong, that's still bad for us. Like I still don't want that to happen.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like, it's one thing if we were weak, then I mean, I could wish they didn't attack us, but if they did, I can't really complain about it. But if we're strong and they're still attacking us, then it's like, guys, no, this is dumb. But then they're just going to be dumb. We're going to attack them and everybody's going to lose, right? So that's what I'm worried is going to happen is the spin is going to be, oh shit, this is the team that scales into the late game. We got to kill them early. They try to attack us early. It doesn't work because Garms. But then we got attacked early and, we couldn't get our infrastructure up. And then we're like behind setting up for our late game.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Okay. Well, thank y'all for joining us.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun, and the game in real life is going to start very soon, and so we'll have the next episodes coming out when we have some turns to show you guys.
And we'll probably talk about this in that next episode, but we'll try to record together, but we probably won't record together every episode. We'll
Yeah,
just do it
yeah.
as many times as we can.
Yeah,
So we might have like independently just sort of episodes going
Yeah.
over the turns, and then once in a while we'll get together and do a comment episode.
Yeah. All right.
All
See you
right.
later, guys.
Take care, everybody.
All right.